In the last video, we introduced the supply chain and we examined both procurement and logistics. We know that a large part of procurement is all about choosing suppliers. As a reminder, suppliers are other businesses who supply goods or services to a business. And in the previous video, we saw that the procurement process involves selecting the most appropriate suppliers for your business, agreeing payment terms, and making sure that contracts are put in place. The reason that many large organisations have procurement teams is that the costs of getting this wrong when it comes to choosing suppliers are huge and can have serious implications on the operations function. Finding suppliers that can meet all of the business's needs is essential for a business to remain competitive and therefore successful. With this in mind, we will explore what should be considered when choosing an appropriate supplier. If you're a fan of fast food, and KFC in particular, you might remember that back in 2018, the unthinkable happened. The takeaway chain, known for its tasty fried chicken, ran out of, chicken. This led to KFC, which has over 900 branches, having to close in most locations, with only 80 sites remaining open at one point across the whole country. But what on earth happened? Well, KFC had just switched its suppliers, but it didn't go well. They had what we sometimes describe as teething problems, with getting the deliveries actually out to the KFC branches, meaning that most sites didn't actually have any chicken to serve their customers, which, as you can imagine, resulted in a whole lot of disappointed people. It took weeks before all KFC locations were open again and could offer a full menu. However, they still had to pay all of their business costs, including employee wages and property costs, whilst they were not serving chicken to the customers. Unsurprisingly, this was a total disaster for KFC, and it negatively impacted their reputation. To all the teachers out there, show all of these videos without any ads and gain access to our growing library of over 500 teaching worksheets. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? So, in this video we're going to meet two businesses. Both are based in Iceland. On the left we have Frida Froberg, owner of Finest Fisheries Limited, and on the right we have Casper Carlin, the owner of Cheepacod. Both of these suppliers are trying to win a contract to supply fish to a new fish finger manufacturer based here in the UK, called Captain Crunchies. Let's have a look at each supplier in a little more detail. Finest Fisheries is a family-run business, founded by Frida's great-great-grandparents. The business has been run by the family ever since, and they pride themselves on the quality of their fish, only using the freshest and most sustainable types of fish that are actually available on the market. Finest Fisheries were also awarded the Employer of the Year award by the government in recognition of their excellent working conditions, training, pay and benefits that they provide their staff. Finest Fisheries have very high standards of customer service and sales support, and they get excellent feedback from their customers on their friendly staff. Nothing is too much trouble for them. Of course, the best fish with such high ethical standards and excellent customer service doesn't come cheap. Finest fish does cost more than many of their competitors, but their motto has always been, you get what you pay for. Fish is big business in Iceland, so last year our second main example, Casper, thought it would be a good idea to set up his own fish supply business as he saw it was a good way to make money. And that's how Cheepacod was born. To be honest, complying with rules and regulations has never been Casper's strong point, and he's not averse to cutting a few corners if it means he can keep his costs down. He's been known to refreeze fish that's past its best, and he's not particularly interested in finding out whether the fish he's selling are sustainable. Most of his staff are on 0-hour contracts, meaning they are not guaranteed any work, and none of them are happy about the safety standards in the workplace. He employs as few people as he can to keep costs down, but it does mean that it can take customers a while to get a response to their queries and that the staff he does have are constantly being overworked. However, because Casper keeps his costs to the bare minimum, he can afford to sell his fish much cheaper than his competition. In fact, Casper sells his fish really cheap. Bring this video and over 100 more to life with fun, interactive games, quizzes and case studies. Why not try the first 25 completely free by visiting BizzWizard.co.uk. So, back here in the UK, this is Ruby Harmond, who's been recently appointed as Procurement Manager for Captain Crunchies, the new fish finger brand here in the UK. She is comparing Finest Fisheries and Cheepacod's proposals to try and decide which supplier is the best option for them to source their fish. When it comes to price, Ruby is surprised to see such a big difference between Finest Fisheries and Cheepacod. In fact, Cheepacod are around 40% cheaper than Finest Fisheries are. This could make a huge difference in the profit margin on the fish fingers that Captain Crunchies manufacture and then sell. When it comes to quality though, Ruby knows that Finest Fisheries have an excellent reputation and all their fish is certified as sustainable. Cheepacod is a much newer business, having only been set up a year ago, but there are rumours that Casper's operation isn't all that it should be. Again, when it comes to reliability, Finest Fisheries have an excellent reputation. Ruby has also been very impressed with their customer service. Whenever she has phoned to speak to Frida or has sent an email, she has received a very prompt and very polite reply. She's been less impressed with the service provided by the staff at Cheepacod. The phones never seem to get answered, and it can actually take days to get an email response. Ruby is concerned that this might be a sign that Cheepacod aren't as reliable as they could be. She'd hate to be the fish finger company that, ran out of fish. For Ruby, the decision whether Captain Crunchies should buy their fish from Frida at Finest Fisheries or the slightly dodgy Casper involves weighing up the pros and cons of each supplier. In this case, it basically boils down to cheap price versus everything else. Reputation, reliability, quality, and good service. Ruby decided in the end to buy most of the fish, 80% of it, from Finest Fisheries and place a relatively small order of just 20% with Cheepacod. The reason Ruby did this is that she thinks that they can have the opportunity to see how the quality and service from Cheepacod actually compares to that given by Finest Fisheries, without the risk of being let down by an unreliable supplier or of getting poor quality fish and not having a backup plan. This situation is a really good example of the kind of decisions that need to be made when it comes to choosing a supplier. Bear in mind, though, that it's not always going to be as cut and dry as this particular situation. Sometimes one supplier will have a number of positives and many negatives as well, and so will the other option, and you will therefore be left weighing up the possible impacts of the decision and trying to pick the best one. When making the decision, there are actually 3 major factors that a business needs to consider when deciding which supplier they're going to use. The first is, unsurprisingly, cost. This is a major factor in deciding which supplier they're going to use. If a business can get supplies cheaply, this keeps its variable cost low, meaning the materials for each unit are cheaper. This may allow it to achieve higher profit margins and invest in other important areas of the business. In fact, it's always important to compare prices with other suppliers in the market. This is also true in life. Don't just go with the first deal you are offered. Hunt around and find the deal that best suits your specific circumstances. Often, the more businesses buy from a specific supplier, the more power they have to negotiate bulk discounts. Meaning, as they start to order more and more from the same supplier, they are often likely to say, "We buy loads, so we think we should pay you a little less now." and the supplier may often turn around and simply say, "You are one of our biggest customers. Okay, fair enough, let's negotiate on the price." It's also important when choosing suppliers to make sure that there are no hidden costs for delivery or packaging, etc., and to check what the supplier's payment terms are. Sometimes there is a link between low price and low quality, so it's important not to just look at cost and consider some other factors. Always remember, the cheapest option will often not be suitable for your specific circumstances. The next important factor, which we have already touched on, is quality. This is extremely important even when a product is marked as budget or a low-cost option. For example, whether a business is making luxury or economy fish fingers, the quality of the raw products must be considered. Businesses need to make products of an acceptable quality that customers want to buy, but at different price points. If the quality is simply abysmal, the customer just won't want to part with their hard-earned cash. Better quality products usually means higher sales, but just as low price is often associated with low quality, higher quality often means higher prices. So, quality needs to be carefully considered when choosing suppliers and will be specific to your business and to your product. Each of the video courses over at BizzWizard.co.uk also includes an interactive business case study that applies the knowledge learnt to a real-world scenario. There are over 1,000 multiple-choice questions, each with detailed feedback, which tests students' understanding of the content. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? Finally, when choosing suppliers, reliability will need to be considered. This is crucial when selecting a supplier. A business needs to be confident that their orders will be delivered on time and that suppliers are consistently going to have enough stock available to meet the demands of their customers. For manufacturers, actually making stuff, late deliveries interrupt the manufacturing process, and for shops, a late delivery could cause them to run out of stock and be unable to serve customers. You don't want to be the chicken takeaway that runs out of chicken, and you certainly don't want to be the fish finger manufacturer that runs out of fish. I think we can agree that this would be really, really bad for your reputation. So, we've seen that there are several key factors that a business needs to consider when choosing its suppliers. If you get an exam question on this topic, it's important to weigh up the pros and cons of each supplier in the given scenario using the information that you have been provided, particularly around price, quality, and reliability. Get it right and you'll have a profitable business, happy customers, and a good reputation. But get it wrong and you could face stock shortages, business interruptions, unhappy customers, and a ruined reputation. So, it's probably best to, get it right. This has been the BizzWizard. See you in the